Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. First of all, sorry for being a day and a bit late with getting the podcast out. Been working almost every day on a day job, and then I got a really nasty cold since. I think I went to bed with it on Friday night, but I woke up very rough on Saturday, and I managed to do the immigrant. I managed to do a gig on Sunday, which went quite well, but I don't think I was my best self because, I'm still, as you might be able to hear now, I'm still struggling to talk properly. Um, as my neck hurts or my throat hurts when I try to make long sentences. And this is why I'm actually going to keep this very brief and just going to give you a bit of a heads up. No heads up, but just to give you a bit of no, never mind. What I was going to say is this. Week's guest is Paul Fitzgerald. Is such a cool man, such a cool guy, and we got to speak for a bit. There were some issues with my internet as we were recording, so you might notice that during the episode, and I apologize for that. It's all fixed now; it's all good. But I also felt like the Paul is a busy man, and I don't want to take more of his time. And on one hand, and then on the other hand, I feel like the things that we talked about were quite good, and not quite they were good, and I didn't feel like it would be like natural to try and remake the conversation again. So we'll just roll with what we got, and. From my side, I've got a couple of shows this week, a couple of shows next week. One of the shows next week is it's for the British Comedian of the Year award, so that's going to be pretty neat, and I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope my voice gets fixed by then, and. It's quite distracting to do this because I am looking at Pickle and Sarma. It's a bit of I wouldn't say it's a storm, but it's like quite like heavy winds, and they are not used to it. So every time they hear the noises outside, they jump at the window to see who's making those noises, and they seem so shocked that there is no one there. Um, but then sometimes they come and ask for pets and stuff. And anyway, that's everything from me. Enjoy the conversation with Paul. Um, Check out his Facebook. That's where he's most active, and he's got a group um, that he looks after. And yeah, check out my website and my social media for tickets to the shows in London from September onwards. So yeah, I'll catch you later. Okay, so Paul, how's it going?
I'm good, Levy. How are you, my man? We finally meet face to face, at least virtually. We've been talking for a while, and it's good to meet you, my friend.
Good to meet you too, brother. I've heard very good things about you from our common
Uh,
friend, and yeah, it's nice. Thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah, what have you been up to? I know it's almost the start of the new heat wave. So how are you enjoying this? How are you enjoying the summer?
training loads. I'm doing the MMA, aren't I? I'm having an MMA fight in 10 days, so that's 8 week training block. I'm up to week 6 now, so yeah. But we train outside as well, which is nice in the hot weather. It's nice to have a little bit of sun in your back while you're training. Apart from that, you can see all the windows are open. I'm wearing a loose top because I think it's 27 here now, which is it's always slightly different to heat abroad, the English heat. It's a little bit different, but we can't complain, right? It's better than raining.
No, it's true, and I think it's kind of you have to as painful as it is, especially for someone like me who's quite big, you have to soak it in. You gotta enjoy it because you know that then you're gonna have like what 11 months after that are gonna be nothing like it. So
Yeah,
yeah, you gotta enjoy it while it lasts.
definitely.
Now, Paul, because I know you were talking about the MMA. Oh my God, what's the word? The camp, the training camp in preparation.
Yeah,
Is that
training
your
camp.
first
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Is that your first time going through it, or have you done it before?
So 5 years ago, I did boxing. I did the same. What do you call it? It's the same outfit. It's called Ultra. So the boxing was Ultra Boxing. This is Ultra MMA. So it's the same organisation. The main reason is for charity, right? So I did that 5 years ago. And then many moons ago, I wrestled as well, but it's a long time. This is like 30 years ago, So yeah, it's freestyle, Olympic wrestling. Did you? Yeah, Greco's good, man. Upper body, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah, yeah, nice. There's no, yeah, there's nothing like wrestling. There's nothing like it in terms of functionality, in terms of explosive strength, in terms of fitness. Um, that's basically why I did it because I gave up smoking back then, and would you believe I was smoking 40 a day back then, and gave up smoking. Googled what's the hardest thing I can find, and that was the hardest thing I could find. And yeah, it's as I say, it's I think it's a very special way of training, and yeah, it's good. When I stopped smoking, I was literally, I was, yeah. So I was smoking 40 a day, stopped smoking, and then I was like, what's the hardest thing I can possibly find? Went on Google, um, realized that this MMA gym was 20 minutes away from my house, and it was at that point I realized I had no excuse, no bullshit, no no reason not to, and yeah, away we go. That's where we went. And I mean, basically, I was watching UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship cage fighting since 1993 when it first came out. I was one of the people that had the VHS tapes, the old VHS tapes one, two, and three, where where the Gracie family, the Hoist Gracie and his family, went over to America and to prove to the world that this was the new wonderful Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, this was the new wonderful martial art. And so I was watching it so it must have been a good 15, 20 years. And I was obviously kept saying to myself, I must do this, I must do this, I must try this, right? Um, and then forever I made excuses. The biggest one being that, I was smoking and drinking and, couldn't even run on the treadmill properly. But as I say, when I decided to give up smoking, that was the point. And yeah, it's never haven't smoked since, and that was one of my addictions back in the day. So yeah. Uh, I don't think you'll ever. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you'll ever quit your addictions if you've got an addictive personality. There'll always be something, won't there? And for me, I probably just switched it. I've switched it now from what was then smoking. More recently was booze. Booze was my thing 6 years ago. Haven't drunk now for 6.5 years. Um, and it could be argued that I'm addicted to exercise, but and chess actually. So exercise for physical enjoyment, let's say, and then chess for mental enjoyment. But it's easy to fall into addictive tendencies and tendencies and behaviours and actions if I'm not careful. But it is what it is, right? And it's you know, my friends lovingly say that my brain is wired differently, but hey, I'll take it. Yeah. Sure. So I'll start with my story a little bit then. Who am I? So I was the quiet guy, the introvert, the guy who felt a bit weird, felt a bit he doesn't fit into societies, he doesn't fit into groups, doesn't fit into school, didn't fit into university, felt like that the whole way really. But then over the years, what I've realised is that I do fit in, but with a certain type of person. You know, people that are basically into personal growth, people who are into progress, people who are into challenging ourselves, stepping outside the comfort zone. Those are my guys, um, and the guys who are not afraid to take on new challenges and be uncomfortable, essentially. Um, so over the years, I still found myself amongst crews or people, or especially work, corporate world, where I felt misaligned. Didn't feel that I fitted in with the people around me. I felt there was a lot of mask wearing, um, bullshit, lies, hopping from meeting to meeting, and people saying a different thing from different meetings. Um, and over the years, I found myself calling it out, and I was saying, you know what, um, I can't be doing with this, and I had to kind of challenge or question back people who were essentially lying or bullshitting. So that's where I got to in corporate world 6.5 years ago, and I suddenly decided, you know what, I need to change so many things in my life because I was so desperately unhappy, so desperately misaligned, mind, body, spirit. Felt like I was living someone else's life, really, um, and felt really low. Felt suicidal actually, and well, I've actually committed suicide while I'm still here, so that didn't happen. So I succeeded in not committing suicide. Um, but I was drinking too much, and basically, booze was my coping mechanism at the time. I was sedating, I was escaping reality, and coping with alcohol. I wouldn't drink first time in the morning, but I would drink certainly from 5 p.m. Work is finished, 5:01, bottle of wine in the hand, um, and that would go to two bottles, and it was that cycle the whole time of plying myself with alcohol, topping up, sedating, numbing myself, escaping reality. Um, yeah, and it got to the point where I was driving a car fast one morning. I was driving to boot camp. It starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I was driving along at half 5 in the morning. Kept putting the foot down, tears running down my face. Didn't really know a way out. Didn't know a solution to this mix of problems that I've just described. Um, and yeah, it felt super low. And basically, I stopped the car. I rang the Samaritans, which was interesting. Albeit I don't remember much of the conversation right now. I know I had a conversation with Samaritans for about 10 minutes, um, and I don't really think he said much. It was just a listening process. Bearing in mind it's a half 5 in the morning, um, and that was my moment. But I felt a kind of a powerful, call it strike of lightning or something. It felt something very physical, very emotional, like a strike from above. Call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever. That's not important. And it was just in that moment that I said, you know what, I need to fucking change everything, and there's no one coming to save me. So from then on, I changed everything. I quit booze. Still haven't drunk 6.5 years down the line. I left corporate world with no plan B. Didn't have a plan. So I then lost 6 stone in weight, um, and I immersed myself in personal development. I took a load of I immersed myself in seminars. You know, the likes of Tony Robbins. I went to his UPW event, Unleash the Power Within. That was in April 2019. I went on skydive. We went to Bali, did the whole kind of digital nomad type thing. But didn't really realize until 8, 9 months later what it is I'm here for. And I suddenly realized that my gift is, and still is, my gift is to help who I was back then, who I was 6.5 years ago. Um, and I've been doing that since, helping that guy and living my dream, which is health at the top. As I say, is it addiction? It might be. You know that basically my lifestyle is super healthy. Got freedom in there. Freedom is one of my values, which is really important. Within reason to do what the fuck I want when I want. Be surrounded by great people. I've got a brotherhood going on. I've got one-to-one clients, and I'm helping these guys to quit booze or lose lots of weight, or a combination of both, or it's usually mindset stuff that they need help with. I'm qualified in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Yeah, and this is what I'm doing now. I've just my current program is 30 strong and sober. 90 strong and sober is coming up. 90 days of being strong and being sober, quitting booze, losing loads of weight. I've got a crew around me now. I've got a community around me, and I'm living my dream, as I say, doing what I want every single day. And I think that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, so I was listening because again, it kept cutting off at times. But from what you were saying, did you always kind of like you at least stayed in touch with your mental well-being? You know, like did you always were you always aware of how you're feeling, or like were you aware for a long time of how you are feeling, or was it something that kind of you was alien to you, and then you've started to pay more attention to it?
Are we talking mentally? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like again, like kind of like what you brought up like this to kind of like check in with yourself, or is it just something that you figured out around the same time when you've decided that I can't do this anymore. I need to make some changes.
Yeah, good question. So what I would say is that I was always talking about like psychology and behavior and why we do what we do with friends of mine, the people that I did get on with when I was at school, when I was at university. So I was always aware of, as I say, human behavior, psychology, stuff like that. However, um, that's not to say that I follow great practices myself. Um, because we get busy, right? I mean, that's at least the narrative or the story that I was telling myself, that I was busy juggling everything, trying to make an income, trying to make a living, etc. And we tolerate it. But what I did know, what I was definitely aware of, was that my mental health was deteriorating. I knew that over years, I would say, and the main reason was being in an industry or a job that as my mental health deteriorated, my liking or my passion for my work deteriorated as well, I guess. And probably, as I'm saying this out loud now, and it's quite interesting, um, probably my identity was tied to my job. I believe that I was successful in the job, therefore I am successful as a person, um, and probably that my identity was tied too much to the role. And it's good to say that with hindsight now nothing defines my identity or who I am or how successful I am. Or if it does, it's a whole plethora of things. It's a whole combination of many, many different things in my life, not just one.
I see. That's quite interesting because and as a follow-up question, what I wanted to ask you is, you were talking about how you've always been interested in psychology, or the mental side of us as like people, but
Mhm.
were you always were you always open with your, like, were you always aware of, or like, were you open about how you felt, and were you sharing that with other people, or was it pretty much no, right.
No, no, because we feel shame, right? Like, and I think the biggest narrative inside my own head is that I was the problem, that I'm different, yeah, and that I'm the problem. And if I share it with other people, they're just going to ridicule me, laugh at me, humiliate me. Um, Whereas actually, over the years, probably that's what's happened as well. Is that it's switched round. That I've realised not only have other people got their own issues, yeah, but that we all have. We're all, you're going to say, on some kind of spectrum of some sort. Do you know what I mean? We're all we've
Absolutely.
all, we've all got our own challenges. We've all got that inner voice. We've all got that level of self doubt, self sabotage, imposter syndrome, fear. You know, we're riddled with fears if we're not careful with it and we're not able to reframe it. So yeah, and that's where I'm at now. Really, is that part of the reason why I do what I do, because I embrace individuality and variety. I love jumping on a call with somebody almost like now. Like, I love this type of call where we've just jumped on random. The audience probably won't believe us, but we've never had a proper conversation before in detail. We decided not to script it. We just jump on, have a chat. We know we're sort of hovering in the same kind of circles, and that's it. So yeah.
But you see, with things like that, and again, there is another thing that I want to ask you based on what you said. It's the idea of like oh my God, what was the word? You're saying that, you defined yourself, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you defined yourself by being successful at your job, and you're like, kind of like, I am the job, or like, if the job is going well, then everything else about my life has to be well, although I don't feel well. And
Yeah.
I think that's, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I guess where that thought process in my head, for me anyway, where it starts is, what is success? Yeah. And that's where the conversation would begin, really. So what is success? Well, for me to be successful, and for my identity, and that's when that's a scary thing about putting labels on yourself. The whole identity thing is that, like, and it was obviously my narrative that for me to be successful and possibly to be happy due to being successful, I must be successful at work. Yeah. And you know, that was my thought process back then, that my pathway to success or to happiness is to smash it at work, like I used to say, nailing the
Mm-hmm.
KPIs, smashing the numbers, being a top performer. But you suddenly realize after a few years that actually this is all bollocks. Yeah. And it's making someone else money. I was making someone else very, very rich. The companies I was working for. Um, and yeah, was I progressing? Probably not. Was I improving? Probably not, because I was one dimensional. I was just after the numbers. I was just after that version of success. Whereas now, my version of success and happiness is far more rounded. And actually, it begins with inner peace. Inner peace is so, so important, where you've got alignment, you've got mostly one narrative that's actually cheerleading for me in the background, not giving me a kick in, not swearing at me every day as it used to, you know. And that's when you're in misalignment, when your body, mind, and spirit is not aligned. Um, you haven't got your why, your purpose. You're not doing something you love. You're not being passionate. You haven't got great relationships. You know, your energy is questionable. Are you keeping fit? Is the nutrition there? Have you got passionate hobbies in your life? All these different other elements are so, so important. Um, but also that, to not get overwhelmed by all of that as well, and saying, do you know what, right now in this moment, am I doing the very best I can with all the resources I have right now, this very second, at 12:26 on whatever the day is, Thursday afternoon.
Thursday.
Yeah, am I doing the very best I can with everything I have now? It's a yes. It's a tick. So that in itself gives me calm. Even saying it makes me feel calm. So,
And then, another one question, something that I'm quite curious to see what your what's your take on is that obviously you've been quite hard with yourself and quite like putting a lot of pressure,
very hard.
on loads of
Yeah.
aspects. But then now I still imagine that even again, ever since you stopped smoking and then now you stopped drinking, you at times probably still are. Not doing the as well as you wish you could, or as something doesn't go precisely how you wanted it to go. How did you manage to, or like, how do you look at it to kind of, still be kind of looking forward and pushing to be your best self whilst being accepting of who you are now? How do you keep that balance? How do you strike the balance?
If you want it in one sentence, because I
No, as
realize,
long as you want.
well, the easiest way for me to describe it, because I'm human, sir. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I'm a fallible human being. I make mistakes. Yeah. All the time. I make regular mistakes. Curveballs come in from an external. Curveballs are forever coming in. But I reframe those. I see a curveball as sent to test us, sent to try us. What's the learning? Yeah. When hard stuff comes in, what have I learned from that? And I do believe also I am into the universe. I am into, we're vibing, we're giving out good intentions, we're manifesting, but also taking action. We're trying to align ourselves with the universe rather than fighting against it or working against it or trying to force things, to happen. Rather than that, we're trying to flow, you know, um, and yeah, just take it day by day. One day at a time is a big thing for the booze community. That's another way that I accept what is. I've done a huge amount of internal work though, and kind of to answer your question, I think what you're asking is when things don't come off, how do I handle that? I think that's kind of what you're asking,
Yeah.
and so that's the first thing is that check in. Am I doing the best I can? Am I enjoying myself? Am I having fun? That's right. That's important as well. Yeah, it's not just about the success or the destination. In fact, it's not about the destinations. It is about the journey. Yeah, it's about enjoying every single moment of every single day. Um, I've done a lot of Vipassana meditation as well. I went on a 10-day silent retreat a year and a half ago, and I've done 2 3 day silent retreats since. Yeah, to unravel this thing called the brain, the motherboard, the hard disk, the powerful computer that's got a million things going on at once. Yeah, to go in there, face the demons as well, my man. When the demons come out in them 10 days, there's nowhere to go. You can't leave, or you could leave, but you know, would you want to? 10 hours of meditation a day. So I meditate every day as well. That's another tool that I use. And what that does, it starts me from a place of peace. Yeah. One big realization for me now on this journey, 6.5 years in of the personal development or healing or however you want to describe it, is I know that I definitely operate best when I start the day from deep peace. Yeah, deep meditation, deep place of peace, and I'm talking like several levels. Like once you keep repping meditation on a regular basis, you get to a very very deep level of peace. And what I then know is that my days go much better if I start with a meditation. And the biggest thing with that is that it feels like you've then got an eternity to handle situations as they come in, curveballs, challenges, the challenges that you've talked about. Um, and I know that if I'm meditating regularly, that I've got more space, time, and focus and perspective, I think is a good word, to handle everything, good and bad.
Well, I think that pretty much goes without saying, and it sounds beautiful. Now, you know what? Actually, another curiosity I have is how do you handle? Because you were talking about like you start you like or you notice that the days that you start with meditation are the days that are naturally going better. what happens when something doesn't go, like when say you don't start the day as you wanted it to go? You know, like, do you accept it and do you like reset the clock the next day and you're like, okay, well, now, I'm starting with the meditation again? Or even, I guess even now, because it sounds like, you're in a very healthy place, but how did you get to this place almost? Like, what was it like to listen to the voice of, almost like the voice of reason that, you've now got? Was it always there? Was it hard to get there? I imagine, even again, the first few, because I imagine when you started training more and working out harder and stuff like this, you must have been, like your body must have been aching and wishing for a day off. Then how did you get to where you are now, basically?
Repping every day, repping. A combination of what I told you. Uh, Living according to my values. I've got my values here in front of me, front of foremost. Health, inner peace, helping, contribution, freedom, integrity, doing my best, showing up, and abundance. They're my values. So I think, really, in answer to your question, how have I got to where I am now? Lots of deep inner work. Lots of deep inner work. Lots of, my brain said sacrifice, but it isn't sacrifice. I don't see it as sacrifice. I just see it as choices. Yeah. We make choices. We make hundreds of choices every day. And what I've realized is that, as I say, the key elements, if I start from peace, if I live according to my values, that's my compass. That's my inner GPS, my compass. Yeah. If ever I'm doing or embarking on something now that doesn't feel right, there's something in there about instinct as well. There's something, when you feel in your belly that something's not quite right, quite often there's a good reason for it. So at that point, I would then run this thing through the filter of my values. Does it fit in with my values? I've got the odd client that sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes that person really, 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 really doesn't want to change, and that person, I'm going to say, that person might be taking the piss. That person, out of themselves and me at the same time, unfortunately, sometimes they are projecting their own issues trying to project their own issues onto me, for example. So, bad timekeeping, not showing up for calls, or missing calls, or not paying on time, all those sort of habits. Do they fit in with my values? And sometimes I have to say to a client, sorry, it's not working out. So I guess what I'm trying to say there is to set boundaries. Yeah. It's to set strong boundaries. What's the compass or the GPS for them boundaries is your values. Does it fit in with my values? Sometimes it doesn't, and I'm very much now into vibe, energy, instinct. I'm listening a lot more to that as I'm going deeper into this place of peace, and making those choices, setting those boundaries. And even if I meet someone now and it's immediately I'm getting that toxic feeling, or I'm getting that feeling, the wrong vibe, I listen to it. I really do listen to that, and most of the time it's right. So
Interesting. And then what happens when, because I guess with and I'm asking as someone who with a history of anxiety and depression.
yeah,
Sometimes I do listen to the voice in my head where he's like, oh, this person seems to be like trouble.
yeah.
How do you again differentiate, or like how does it work so that you perhaps don't burn bridges that shouldn't be burned? So, like, how do you make sure, like, where is the balance? Where do you think that there is a balance where you're like, you know what, I'm still going to listen to the voice in my head because I believe that what it's saying is based on my past experiences and everything that like factual things. But
Yeah,
then also I'm aware that maybe there might be some things that I'm actually not sure about.
yeah. So there's quite a distinct difference in what I said, and this is part of the work that I've done. Because what I said was trusting your instinct, and what I mean by that is your belly, that feeling in your belly, and that uncomfortable feeling when you're with somebody, right? Um,
Right.
that's what I'm talking about, and it takes years and years and years of self trust, practice, repping, and sometimes we don't get it right, sometimes we don't. But what you mentioned was inner voice, and I see the inner voice as very, very different. I see the inner voice as the way I describe it, and this is only my world. Everyone's
Yeah.
different, but my world, the way I describe it, is lower self and higher self. We do a lot of work on identity, as in the best version of you and the not so good version of you. Call it the devil and the angel on your shoulders type thing. Yeah. Um,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and the way I've always described it is that you've got your lower self, and I've put a name to mine and everything. My lower self is frail Fitzy, right? He's the guy in the darkened room. He's the guy. He's the guy with a big question mark above his head. He's probably, he might be in the fetal position. He's probably drinking alcohol. He's very negative. He doesn't have any answers. He's lost. He's frustrated. He's pissed off, frustrated, angry with the world. It's everyone else's fault. Victim mode. All of that. He's my lower self. Yeah. Um, and what I'm saying to you over the years, and it takes a lot of practice to tune in to, is that the one that's talking right now? Yeah. Or is it my higher self who, and this is where it's going to get a bit confusing to explain, because I've done so much work on archetypes, and let's say that my core identity now, rather than higher self, my core identity, the one that I operate with most, is peaceful terminator. Yeah. So it's kind
Yep.
of, as I've just explained to you, operate from a place of, it's like yin and yang, peaceful terminator. So operating from a place of peace, but able to flick the switch to be the Terminator. And I don't mean violence. What I mean with that is the Terminator just basically having all the tools within him to handle whatever happens. Yeah. So he's almost like a workman. He's almost like a carpenter with his tool belt, with all of his tools. So peaceful Terminator, my core identity. I'm now very aware when he's in control, he's driving the car, if you want to say. Yeah. I'm now very aware
Yeah.
because of the language, because of the behavior. And I'm also aware chemically now, where I need to be careful with the whole addiction thing. If I start doing one of these activities too much, even chess, yeah, I love chess, right? But if I play chess for too long, my brain goes a bit fucking crazy. My brain, I can feel, this. I call it into the addictive mode, where it's all over the place. I'm playing for the wrong reasons. I'm playing shit. I'm doing it to hide. I'm doing it to cope. It's basically started to give me what booze used to give me: to escape, to cope, to lock in, to shut away from the world. Um, but then what happens in my brain? As I said, it goes all a bit. It's almost like the chemicals are just jumping all around the place and just going. It's say like if you had 10 coffees together, if you had to that level,
Yeah.
that's how the brain goes. And so in terms of that's how I describe the voice. And then there's the other version of this, and I don't want to complicate it too much, but the thing I'm tapping into now is when we're meditating, is to be the observer of our thoughts. And actually the thoughts, or the inner voice, is just thoughts. And that's almost quite calming, where you're almost like, almost call it like the CEO of your life. Yeah. You're separate. I'm separate from Paul Fitzgerald. Yeah. And I'm observing him. Right. And it's quite empowering in that you're then aware of this voice, you're then aware of the thoughts, but number one, you don't react to them emotionally, number one. And that's the thing called equanimity in Buddhism, which is basically not reacting, good or bad. Yeah. And then also, you're not swayed by the language or the instructions or the, you know, or the kind of what to do next. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, and I've tried to explain it all as simply as possible. But I think the biggest message for me is instinct is very different. Instinct is just that fucking gut feeling in your belly, man, where you just know something is wrong. You just know, like we're highly intelligent human beings, and the human body and mind is so powerful if we just treat it well by making the right choices, you know. And on that basis, I now really trust my instinct. I get it wrong sometimes, but generally the vibe, you know, the energy, the vibe, connectivity, giving someone a chance as well. I think that kind of came up in your questioning as well. That, do you know what? The other premise to all of this is that I have to understand that everybody's got their own shit going on as well. Whoever you meet, whatever you're doing, like shopping, you know, MMA, whatever, start to speak to somebody as if it's a blank canvas, you know nothing about them. They might have their own stuff going on. Their behavior might be dictated by that. They might have just had some terrible news before I've met them. So it's about accepting that as well. Yeah.
That's interesting because you see, um, again, I was thinking about a totally different, again,
Yeah.
different thing,
Sure.
and now I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Everyone's got
And
their own. Everyone's got their own ways of looking at things, perspective. You know, we're all different, and that's what's amazing in this world is to embrace our individuality and like and do you know what we do, right? Personal development. All we do, we take bits from everywhere, don't we? We take bits that resonate, and then we repackage it. Even coaches, even gurus, Tony Robbins. Most of Tony Robbins stuff comes from Jim Rohn, who was his teacher. Yeah,
mm,
you know that because you hear all the videos saying the same thing that Tony says, for example, right? So that's what my suggestion would be is to take little bits that resonate with you, but then come up to with your own conclusions or solutions. Because that's one thing that I do, and that I'm famous for, if you will, is to immerse myself into something. It's like the weight loss. 3rd of January, we weighed ourselves, right? And I was 115.4 kilograms, right? And I then decided, okay, Fitzy, you're now going into this incubator. You're now going into this container. Me, or the CEO of my life, whoever's in control of this ship, right? Or the ship, you could say, this vessel. Um, you're now going into a scientific experiment for weight loss for the next few months. Yeah, it's done. It's non-negotiable. And this is where I get ruthless with the discipline and everything like that, and integrity and doing what I said I was going to do. And I basically immersed myself, and it's continued on the weight loss journey. You know, and I've pulled in people with me now that want to do the same thing. Um, and yeah, it's so I'm all about testing and trying things in a real live environment and then being able to talk about it. Yeah. I'm not, it actually irks me quite a lot, people that talk theory a lot. It fucking annoys me. Yeah. And
which is fair enough.
you know it as well. You realize, because, well, all you have to do is ask a few more questions, and suddenly their their plan or their their structure of what they're saying just falls apart, because there's nothing. They've just heard it somewhere. Oh, that sounds great. So, but I'm all about trying it, testing it. Again, I might get addicted with it as well, maybe.
Well, I think it's such a valid such a valid point, because I was thinking about, and I can't remember what I've heard this before, where the idea of like I think it was about reading books, and it was about how you can read a book and just be like, just take whatever
Yeah,
you find of value to yourself. So that's pretty much how you've addressed it, where it's kind of like, you don't have to believe in not believe, but you don't have to live by the whole book. you perhaps, you find whatever is helpful for you. I think it was actually Arnold Schwarzenegger who said this. It was like, you can kind of like, you just take whatever works for you, and that's it. That's enough. That's all you need. You don't need to again to do everything or to live by everything. Because then you it's almost like you, with the information that you have around you, or like the information that you surround yourself with, then you decide how you're going to live, or like, and what is it that you're going to take, and then pave it forward. So I think when you were talking about the Tony Robbins, sorry, and then now with, like, again with your own experiences, where it's kind of like you've heard about this and you've heard about this and you've heard about this, you've done some research and you're like, okay, cool, this looks like something that I'm interested in, and now you've kind of like made it in your own version, which now you're possibly passing on to someone else, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, I'll take this. This I'm not so sure about, but I'll just take the bits that I feel like, okay, resonates with me, and then I'm going to turn that into my own.
Yeah, their own version. Yeah. But what I'm also all about is living and breathing it. Yeah.
I think that's very. Sorry, go on.
You've got to take action. There's no point reading a book and saying, I'm now super knowledgeable about XYZ. Like, I'm famous for saying, what's the action? So what's the action? What are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take? Yeah. It's all right, your brain pulsating with information, but what's the action? What's your next step? And what's the step after that? And what's the bigger picture? What's the 6-month plan, a 12-month plan? That's where I'd say that's where my skills are, is being able to. Well, I've just remembered. I did a Tony Robbins profile test, and it said I came out as the finisher, the person who executes or finishes what they're trying to do. So that'll explain that. So in terms of like holding people accountable and keeping us on the path and making sure that they don't wander too far and they come back into what they were originally committed to, I find that quite easy, to be honest.
And then you see with oh god, I got lost for a second.
That's all right.
Sidetracked. No, so basically, what my question was, you're talking about like how you've got to like keep the accountability, and also you kind of like you have to have lived the experience before you start telling other people about it, and that's a pretty, like, again, you've got the example for it, but I was quite curious, what was it like then in regards to the stress, or like how did you manage yourself when you've decided, okay, cool, I'm quitting my day job, I'm quitting this career that I've built for now. I really don't know what I'm going to do. And then, pretty much, because I think even when you were talking about the idea of, you being the one to tell clients, hey, look, I don't think this is working. That's something that I don't think many people would do when they know that that's their livelihood. Right? So obviously you did cover your values, and that makes sense why you would do that, because ultimately you live by these values. But then I'm just quite curious, again, based on the stress of like building up a new career, and things as such. What was that like? And how stressed were you? What was the vibe like?
Again, I'm human, right? The first few months. So the first few months back then, 2019, were a mixture of excitement, energy. My energy was through the roof, and I remember that distinctly. Because I'd sorted all my habits out. I'd removed this huge weight and stress of a job that I hated so much. And it's not just about the 9 to 5; it's about everything that goes with it. It like I felt like it was a ton weight on me all the time, 24/7, and it was a slog, because I just wasn't enjoying it. So my energy was through the roof. So a mixture, in answer to your question, a mixture of excitement, adrenaline, but fear as well. I am human, like I said. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of success. Even, if I am successful in this new field, whatever it looks like, what does that then bring with it? It brings a new challenges. And what I said about telling clients it's not working, obviously that's few and far between, but you will find in the bigger picture, the overall bigger picture, that the amount of happiness and less stress it gives you by being surrounded by your people, your tribe, your crew, yeah, and they'll come back. That's what I seem to find in my world. I've got people who keep coming back 2 years, 3 years, 4 years on this journey, yeah, because we're vibing, because we speak the same language, we resonate, and it's not about, oh, they've gone away and failed or the systems or tools don't work. It's just that's the way of life, man, is that we're doing the best we can with everything. And sometimes we just need to tune up and freshen up, and I'll always welcome guys back into my world. And one or two, and this is only one or two, this is 1 or 2%. I would love never to see them again. But I wish
It's
them
quite
well.
nice.
But
Yeah.
I wish them well, in their own world and with their own perspective, which is the word we used earlier, because that's, clearly their perspective or their values or their alignment is very different to mine, and that's okay. It's okay too.
And you see, this is still, again, I find it wonderful because, again, to have that sort of like moral clarity, it's not something that, again, comes as a given. Other thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm conscious of time, so I'll keep this as my last question before I ask you about like where do people find your work and everything as such.
Sure.
When you've done this transition from being, again, from like listening to yourself more and trying to make your life happier, it must have been a change, not just for yourself but for even for the people around you. So then, how do you? And also, I think even when you started, because you were saying about how you've always been interested in psychology, but you were never open about your own feelings and about your own journey. How did how did it feel for you to kind of like open up to the people, or like to present your better self to these people who knew you before? Were you, and the reason why I'm asking is because, I've noticed that many times I used to, I had it as well, where I feel like there was almost like a not intrusive, when you're pretending to be someone else, or like when you're imposter, you almost feel like is a sort of imposter, because it's like, is this like really the new me? Or is it just like me now, and then I'm gonna go back to the old me? How do I make sure that I almost don't trick myself and other people into thinking that, oh, that's just like a 2 months thing, and then I'm just gonna go back to normal? Or no, what I mean by normally, I mean the whatever they would have thought of it being normal, or whatever was normal for me back then.
A lot of questions, but I'll answer. Yeah.
Sorry.
Um, I'm going to be forthright here and say fuck everyone else. That's step one. Yeah. And I still love and appreciate other people. However, to be your true, authentic self, yeah, and to make the decisions for you to be your best self within reason. No, not even within reason. You need to say fuck everyone else to start with. Yeah. So therefore, I lose people. I lose people who don't resonate with me anyway. I lost drinking partners. Were they really friends? No. Yeah. So on that basis, to have a smaller crowd around you, but the people that truly cheerlead you, the people that truly resonate, people you should truly be around, that's much better. I've never been surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of people, and I'll always challenge people who are they really true, authentic self? There's something in there about the mask wearing as well. We've kind of touched on there that,
Mm.
what we should be doing and what I do, I'm my true authentic self. There's no mask. I'm like I'm if I jumped on a call with any of my other clients now, I would be exactly the same as I am with you now. but obviously tailored a little bit towards the type of person they are, the type of language they use, the type of way they like to be motivated, their personal preferences, their perspectives. That will shift, just to vibe correctly and connect with the other person. However, I guess I'll mention values again. If I'm ever in doubt of how I should be operating, if I'm removing all the masks, what's behind it is those values and my core identity. The peaceful Terminator, health, inner peace, contribution, freedom, integrity, doing my best in abundance. That's me. And we've only been together for an hour, but you've probably seen glimpses of all of those different things while we've talked.
Yeah, those are very valid points.
Yeah. And I can't stress enough, though, the fact of, I'm going to say fuck everyone else. What I mean by that is that to truly be authentic and to truly give your best self to other people, you have to build your own battery first. I'm talking on a daily basis now. If you wake up in the morning, if you think of your personal battery as like a phone battery, right?
Yeah.
What you want to do is make sure you've got all your habits in place, your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, your mental health, all your different activities and habits in place. And I track it on my Garmin, on my my Garmin watch on the phone. I track all the metrics. I use them as a guide, to oscillate in a certain level, across all the metrics. They don't dictate my day. I don't look at those numbers and say, okay, my body battery is only 20% out of 100, therefore I'm going to have a bad day. I don't do that. Sleep metrics as well, so that's how you achieve to be that best version and that authentic version of you on a daily basis. They're the key parameters, I guess, is what I would say. So the Garmin metrics, the values, the identity, filling my own battery, and then do you know what? Everyone's then a winner. I'm a winner because I'm happy, I'm energized, I'm passionate, yeah. But everyone else is a winner as well because they're getting the best version of me. They're getting the authentic version. They're getting the unfiltered version, but they're getting the energized version, yeah. And there are times, let me finish it off, and this isn't a negative, but there are times where you do have to have strong conversations with people and confrontation, and you do need to tell people the score. You do for your own peace of mind, but also for them, And the Americans love me, right? Why they love me? Because normally in America they get smoke blown up their arse and told that they're wonderful all of the time when sometimes they're not, right? Whereas I'll call them out, right? And they love it. They love it because they're not used to it, and I'm doing it with tough love. Yeah, I'm not doing it to be vindictive. There's no ego in there. I'm doing it. So basically, if they're bullshitting themselves, I'm the mirror. I then hold up the mirror and I say, well, hold on a minute. Is that really true what you're saying? Yeah. Do you really believe what you've just told me? Are they the real facts? Should we have a look at your MyFitnessPal? Should we have a look at your Garmin? Is that true reality that you're telling me? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and none of it's about me. It's all about them, and it's all about helping them to get to the best version of themselves. And I'm just the mirror, just holding up the mirror, asking the right questions. Yeah, and that's it.
Amazing. Well, Paul, thank you so much. Now, honestly, the last question is: where do people find your work? Where are you most active? Yeah, that's it.
The quick answer is Facebook. Just type my name, Paul Fitzgerald, into Facebook. You'll find me. Most, if not all, of my stuff is on there. The videos, the content, the courses, what I do, who I am. I do LinkedIn and I do Instagram, but far less. Everything starts with Facebook, and that's where my crowd seem to be. To be honest, I've tried the other platforms, but I seem to connect and resonate, and they resonate with me on Facebook.
Beautiful. Well, I'll get your basically I'll get your your page and everything. I'll put it on the overview for the episode.
Great.
thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Pleasure, my man.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Have a good day.
And you.
Okay, so was it good? I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was at least as good as you hoped for, if not better. I think Paul was a wonderful guest, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him. I can see why he's doing so well. Um, I also promise to um, get him back on at some point to to record again, basically, but this time with much much better perhaps flow from my side. Again, I'm sorry for the mishaps during the recording, the internet problems, and I think that kind of showed, the yeah, that all combined kind of showed on how hard it was for me to focus and ask the right questions, or like ask even like better questions, or phrase it better, and things as such. And in one hand, I feel bad for that, because I don't want to put out um no a version of of the podcast that I'm 100% happy with. But in the other hand, I feel like there were still some very good topics that we covered. So I hope you folks enjoyed it. I genuinely do. Um, there was something else I was going to say. Yes, the other thing is that I will try and get Paul back on at some point, and we'll try to we'll record with a different question and everything. Because again, as you can see, he's such an interesting person, and it was such a pleasure to take the time to speak with him. And again, for me, I feel like my throat is still very hard to deal with. So I'm just gonna leave it there. And yeah, you'll hear from me again next week. Hopefully, I mean, it should be on Monday as normal. So this is the only week where a lot of things have happened, and I had to be quite, yeah, just accept it as it is. Again, busy with a day job. Got a cold for the last few days, and also I don't have my own Mac for a while. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get through it. We learn to. I learn to take things as they come, and but then hopefully again next week it should be Monday morning as normal. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you later. Bye. Um, Sorry, I forgot to say. Until then, from me, Pickle and Sarma, stay skillful.